Good morning. Thanks for joining us for another one of our coffee break technology sessions. We have a pretty good amount of attendance for this topic, so we think we've hit on something here that's pretty good, and I think it's a topic we've talked about in the past, but definitely hyperconverged is a growing trend, a growing level of interest, and definitely a growing solution that we're talking to our clients about and installing and expanding. So happy to be joined today by one of our senior solutions architect, Josh Moore. Good morning, Josh.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining. You've joined us on several topics, anything that ranges from all the different types of security layers that we talk about. But you've definitely been a very active and knowledgeable member of our team as it relates to hyper-converged solutions for our customers, part of some of our early solutions and some of our latest ones as well. So it's great to have you here to talk about this and to, discuss some exciting things about what's happened with hyper-converged, where it's headed, and what our clients are benefiting from. So as I mentioned, we'll talk about that, how some of our larger clients are leveraging hyper-converged really as a game changer to create
Yep.
reliability, scalability, and flexibility for their infrastructure. So, um, Josh, let's kind of do a little bit, maybe go back in the Wayback Machine a little bit. When was the
Yeah.
first time you heard the term hyper-converged? How was it originally positioned to you then? Who are the big players? Kind of a little bit of history on this technology.
Yeah, of course. I always love getting in the Wayback Machine. So, it was the first time I heard the term hyper-converged. I was at a company called Batteries Plus, and I was at an executive conference in Phoenix, mid-market enterprise conference. And Scale, one of our existing hyper-converged partners, was presenting the solution, and it was the first time I had heard, seen of a hyper-converged solution, and it was very compelling. Even then, working for an organization that had over 100 servers in a traditional three-tier architecture, and having to troubleshoot the level of complexity of that three-tier architecture as well as management of it really was simplified. Management, single dashboard, ease of use. And then, a little bit of investigation when I got back to the office showed, Nutanix, another partner of ours that was in the market, was a competitor. So yeah, it was definitely something that caught my eye and really opened up a whole new future of possibilities for managing that compute and infrastructure for the business.
Yeah, so who are some of the other players, bigger players in this space back then? Maybe some names that people would recognize that are, maybe not even current players today.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, VMware was making inroads. Obviously, a big name. Um, Nutanix, as I mentioned, was a big name in the space as well when it initially entered into the marketplace. It seems like a lot of the players that have got into the hyper-converged spaces have hung around. But it seems like those two players kind of dominate the market share.
Sure. Okay. So let's take a little step back.
Yeah.
Of those that are on this webinar, they may have a full knowledge of hyperconverged, but just in case somebody is using the Google machine right now to try to determine what that is, in your kind of your best layman's term, what is hyperconverged and how is that different than a typical three-tier architecture?
Yeah, so a three-tier architecture, you're managing, compute, so processor, memory, separate from the storage layer, the disk, and connectivity between those two systems. So, it makes managing those on a day in, day out basis, troubleshooting, even changes and updates to that architecture very difficult to move forward with. Whereas in a hyper-converged infrastructure, they take all of that and they compress it into a model that's really easy to manage. So, to have the resiliency, scalability, into like a 3 node stack, right? So one of those servers, any one of the disks fail, you're still up and running. Those applications that power the business are still running. And then in order to be able to do updates, it's a single stack. So instead of having to update your SAN, update the connectivity layer in between, update all of your servers firmware, it's just a one-step process to be able to do that, greatly simplifying the management of those things. As well as, features like being able to have your workloads be able to be distributed across those servers in a manner that optimizes performance for those business applications. So just a lot more scalability, flexibility, and gives you an ecosystem to be able to extend out, and do better orchestrations to like cloud-based systems and things like that versus a 3 tier.
Okay, good. Thank you for that.
Yep.
So has the way that we're leveraging hyperconverged technology changed since you first heard about it at that conference?
Oh, it sure has. It's been absolutely amazing to watch the technology evolve over a period of time. It was a fantastic idea when it first landed, but like I said, the spectrum of the services that are surrounding these hyper-converged solution is absolutely amazing, right? Back then it was to power your primary compute. But now they're extending that to have synchronization between your primary compute and a DR facility, right? They're integrating backup solutions. They're allowing you to be cloud adjacent by, taking those workloads, the applications that power the business, and transparently kind of move them from an on-prem system into the cloud. The management tools have gotten a lot better and more simplified. So even expanding that system is much easier than when they first came out. And they continue to evolve, right? Looking at some of the things that are on the roadmap for these companies are pretty impressive. Being able to use artificial intelligence to look at those workloads, to be able to give you, some level of intelligence around, where you should be running those workloads based off of, requirements for, some of your B2C, B2B customers, or cost, or, a variety of other factors that could come into play. Yeah, so huge evolution over a period of time.
That's great. Good. Uh, One thing I forgot to mention, if you have questions, those that are on and listening, that you'd like us to answer, please use the chat feature. There should be a little chat icon, a little chat bubble at the top of your screen. Feel free to drop a note in there. I think we'll all see that and have a chance to answer the questions. We have plenty to talk about, but we'd love to hear from you as well. So as you keep your eye on what's going on in the industry, and obviously we're talking to clients all the time about this technology, what are some of the exciting new features, new capabilities, both hardware and software, that you've seen over the last year?
Yeah, so one of the things that I've seen over the last year is a lot of improvements to self-healing of those of nodes that are within hyperconverged, right? Where if you have a drive fault, or there's a synchronization error of the data behind the scenes, that the intelligence of the hyperconverged software, and it's all software defined, it's able to self-heal in a quick manner to make sure that your workloads aren't impacted by any kind of failure. So I've seen a lot of that over a period of time, and each year they get better and better. Over the last year, I've just seen a lot of improvements with respect to breaking down those barriers, right? Of, where does hyperconverge end and the cloud begin? And, companies really want to have that, right? With the cloud being potentially a final destination, hyperconverged is kind of a good leaping point. And over the last year, I've seen that cloud adjacency really greatly improve. So those are some of the things that have really blown my mind over the last year.
Yeah, that's a good term, cloud adjacency. I think
Yeah.
hyperconvergence really enabled that in a different way. I
Yep.
think we've also seen some interesting things with hardware. It keeps getting smaller and smaller
Yeah.
and more
Yeah.
capable.
Well, and we've seen, Nooks, a device that you can hold on to your hand. Our partner at Scale, has been able to run hyperconverged infrastructures, that you don't need a rack. You can fit it inside a bread box, right? I wouldn't recommend that from a heating standpoint or a cooling standpoint, but can be done. As well as, yeah, being able to leverage those smaller devices for edge compute, where you need that processing power distributed instead of a centralized data center. So yeah, definitely good point, Jeff, on the hardware and where it's going as well. I've seen that as well.
We've kind of been blessed with clients who maybe jumped into this technology earlier than others. We tend to not be on the bleeding edge unless it has a true business impact. I think we talk a lot about the fact that while we love technology, we love the cool new shiny thing. We don't like to provide clients with new shiny technology unless it has a true business impact. And hyperconverged definitely was one of those technologies that we positioned with our customers that kind of bought in a little early. So we've recently started to see some of refreshing of those environments.
Yep.
So, what was the proof point for these clients that have said, "Hey, this was a really great thing, and I'm ready to invest in, refreshing this. Let's get the current stuff in." And then I've got a follow-up question to that when you're ready.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, going into the Wayback Machine, before those customers purchased the hyperconverged infrastructure, either they had a server or two that were running a virtualization layer with local storage, so they didn't have the scalability, redundancy to be able to appropriately support the business needs for, application and system uptime. Or they're running a three-tier architecture, and the engineering associated with managing that, the complexity, really made it so that those customers, were spending a lot of extra money on care and feeding of those systems. And once they made that move over to hyperconverged, they were able to, not only realize some of those cost savings on the operations side, but really it simplified their environment, where they didn't need to spend a lot of time giving those systems the care and feeding, as well as the innovation, right? Being able to take advantage of those new technologies. So for a lot of them, that was kind of the proof point that they really got from moving over to hyperconverged was those improvements.
Okay. And we are seeing the expansion of these environments. The clients are,
Yep.
looking to add more workloads, all of the things, that you were talking about that are some of the value or some of the benefits of these solutions. We're seeing clients double down and
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
expand
Yep.
their environments.
Yeah, and once you receive the benefits of the innovations, the improvement of uptime, the cost savings associated with the simplification of your operations, it's a no-brainer, right? They see that value proposition, so they're doubling down. And once you're on that hyper-converged infrastructure, even if you are on a three-tier or traditional architecture, it's very easy to move those workloads, right? So plugging in the new nodes, replicating all of those servers over, getting it back up, very minimal amount of downtime, if any, to be able to move back into a new hyper converged solution from one that they already own. as well as being able to take advantage of those benefits of moving to the cloud in a lot more simple fashion. So
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. It's been fun to watch.
yeah, it has been.
All right, so we're going to turn off the Wayback Machine, put it back where it belongs, and pull out your crystal ball. What's next? What do you see next in the hyperconverged space? What are our partners talking about in terms of future non-NDA features and functionality that we're looking for, that our clients are either asking about or currently considering, in the next couple of years with hyperconverged?
Yeah, you know, we've already seen the trend looking a little bit back, and every hyper-converged player that is, thinking strategically about where organizations are going, that final destination is the cloud, right? So they're really looking to partner with, AWS, Google, Azure, to be able to have that ecosystem where they can move those workloads transparently from a hyper-converged up to the cloud to be able to host their workloads and applications, right? And it gives the best benefits for organizations that maybe have seasonal peaks of B2B, B2C customers that are coming on. So that's one of the things that I really see coming up is, just a lot more of that cloud adjacency and being able to power those workloads, whether it's hyper-converged on-prem or in the cloud, and being able to manage those things from a single dashboard, and being able to see what are the costs of the business, what are the benefits to the business. So that's one of the things I see. I also see, a lot more orchestration and intelligence being built into these systems, and not only in an infrastructure and operations area, but if you're an organization that values, the uptime of your applications, and I hope you do, right? Because that's going to help drive revenue, increase customer satisfaction, and things like that. I really think that they're starting to reach up into the application layer, right? To have a level of artificial intelligence that's reviewing at a higher level in the applications to understand what transactions are happening, what data integration is happening between these servers, and being able to kind of define, all right, if we have a DR scenario that we have to play through, how do we reduce the recovery point and recovery time objectives, right? To make sure that those workloads, if we do have an event, that they're able to be powered on, and be, and not miss a single step in the business operations. So those are kind of two of the big areas that I see these hyper-converged solutions really going.
Interesting. Good. Yeah, I think it seems like it's an exciting time. We've kind of broken through the initial concerns about what this could look like. They've refined the capabilities, and it's
Yep.
been proven. It's proven itself out in the market. I think the last couple years have pushed organizations to kind of consider how all of that is, how all of that compute is done, and what their infrastructures need to look like, and the cloud adjacency, as you mentioned. And now it's really who's ready to start taking that next step and putting some of these concepts into place and moving away from some of that legacy infrastructure that just limits some of that flexibility and the things that you've talked about. Kind
Yeah,
of an exciting time to be in the space.
it certainly is. So I I am shocked at how much hyperconverged has revolutionized a lot of the way our companies do business.
What we try to do is keep these in that 20 to 25 minutes space, and I think we've accomplished that today. I don't see that there's any questions. If you have one that you were waiting until we took a breath to ask, please do that soon. As we'll wrap up a few public service announcements here. One of our favorite events of the year is our Director of Solutions, Paul Hager, sharing in our Thought Leadership series, Technology Trends for 2022. He'll look back at his presentation from last year and talk about what he saw is coming. It was not advancements in COVID testing technology, I can tell you that. But he'll look back at what he was predicting and whether or not he was correct and his crystal ball was working at the time, and talk about what he sees coming in this year and beyond in our technology trends for 2022. So if you haven't registered for that, please do. I think we've got a really good set of registrants at this point in terms of a high volume. So that's a very interesting topic. So you can register at levityit.com events. Throw your information in there, and we will get you the info. Also, you can always claim your gift card, or as always, claim your gift card for attending. You can use your camera on your phone to scan that QR code, or if your fingers are fast, type in that URL. I'll come back to that here at the end. So again, thanks to everyone for joining us. It's a nice, brisk middle of January Friday. It's exciting to think about. In 60 days, it'll be the middle of March, and people will be heading off to spring break. So I'll knock on wood, but this will be a nice short winter for us. So thanks again. I'll go back to the coffee card. Make sure you claim that. If you have interest in hyperconverged, understanding how it can impact your organization, what the costs are, how it would get rolled out, all of those kinds of things, we're happy to help. Please reach out to one of us, any of us, at Levity, and we'll get you in touch with the right people. Josh, as always, thanks for joining us. Very informative. Great to have you on.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Jeff. Appreciate it.
You bet. All right, everyone, have a great weekend, and we will talk to you soon at Paul's Tech Trends for 2020. Thanks again.